What's going on, YouTube? Claic, Yuzolt back again with another Final Fantasy Brave Exvius video, and today we have Sabin, we have Edgar, the Figaro bros. We're gonna find out if they're good, and if they are good, if you even should be pulling for them with all the great banners we've had leading up to this one. Let's get into it. Alright guys, here we are on the wiki page showing us what the units are on the banner. We have Celeste, Setzer, Sabin, and then the new Edgar being their 5-star base forms. Again, this is going to be a King Mog event, so use your Celeste, use your Setzer to build up your King Mog percentage bonus, and then, you know, if you would like to pull for these units, you definitely can get a hold of them. First up, we're going to look at Monk Sabin of Kolts. Remember that, I like how they have this disclaimer up top. Anything can change once the units come out, but there are no global changes, so it seems like they can only change for the good if they do change. Looking at his TMR, long training pays off. It's going to be in Materia, increase attack 60% when equipped with a fist, and then gives you some auto heal per turn. Again, this is going to be great if you really need to hit that attack percentage when you are using a fist weapon, maybe true dual wielders, or anybody who's going to be a monk who likes to use fist weapons. Other than that, kind of skippable because it's very niche when it comes to using a fist weapon. Moving on to his STMR, though, it is disgusting. It is the Coin of Fate Sabin, which is going to be similar to the Coin of Fate Edgar here in a minute. Attack 55. Accessory, also giving you HP 30%, and if you're going to be using a fist weapon, 60% when you have it equipped. So an amazing STMR when it comes to even just the attack stat being 55, adding on that HP and that attack percent when you use that certain weapon makes it very, very good. So very, very good, obviously, but it's an STMR, so hard to get. Looking over the abilities of Sabin, you know, he has some different kind of chaining families. He has Stardust Ray, chaining family here, where he can do a little bit of fire or wind damage. You know, when we talk about it, you want to know what kind of element he's with, if he can imbue or imperil, if he's a true double hand or true dual wield user, and then, you know, how much damage he can actually put out. Moving on down to this, you can see that he has some support as well. Cure all status elements to all allies. And then we have a water element and fire element we can see here. So he has the ability to imbue either one of these. Water element, also recovering some MP, increasing the LB gauge, and also increasing modifiers. So this is going to become something that is a little bit more common in the game now, where if you use a certain ability, it also makes up and, you know, makes other abilities stronger, adding to their multipliers, which is great. So you can choose between using the one for water or fire when you have him, because you are going to put a fist weapon in his hand, and he's actually, spoiler alert, going to be true double hand. He's not going to be true dual wield. Moving on down, we do see that his biggest, baddest hitting ability is going to be Phantom Rush. It's going to have that chain capping where it hits, and big hit at the end that we're used to. Not the highest multipliers in the world, but using other abilities to enhance that and give it higher multipliers will help you with doing a lot of damage. And it's absolute mirrored of equity chain or AT chaining. We got Xeno, Sora, Esther, Axstar, all of them. It seems like it's going to be very prevalent. Obviously, it's become the new Divine Runation that we have in the game, so that's great as well. He has innate dual cast, which is going to help with the true double hand, where you can cast any of these abilities that you may need to. And he also has some of his cooldown abilities linked to this. So we have a way to get some HP back, get rid of breaks on yourself, enable triple blitz, which is going to be triple cast, and then increase modifiers to some of his abilities. I'm looking for Phantom Rush, and we see it right there going up by 1 times. And then his other abilities also get some buffs if you need to cast those. Tiger Break to me is really, really cool. You even get it more of a 2 times multiplier added on top of this, which makes it even higher. Instead of being 6 times multiplier, because, you know, normally, if you cast this first and it's still on when you cast this ability, it's going to go all the way up to a 10 times multiplier, and it hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So it's like boom, 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 boom. So it's not really a chaining move, but I feel as it more of like a, you know, he hits really hard over and over again. So it's kind of like finishing multiple times, I guess you could say. I don't know. So you want to try to build up a chain and then fit this in. I don't know how well it's going to work out, but it sounds cool in, you know, just looking at it. And it is, you can only use it after turn 3 at 3 during cooldown. But it is a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage when you add it all up. This helps him end up, especially with the 2 times multiplier added on from breathing technique. So you breathe in, bam, bam, bam. You just go to town, dude. And I'm a Monk fan. So, Undying Spirit, which you cannot dual cast. 10 turn cooldown available turn 1. HP damage 81% to self. So, if you guys remember Final Fantasy VI, a lot of Edgar and Sabin's abilities, you know, they got better as you got lower HP. So, this is going to kind of play into that, I do believe, with the lore aspect. Increase attack 250% cannot be dispelled, which is cool. Increase LB gauge 36 to caster, which is going to be big. His LB is absolutely berserk. Then he puts an an auto revival on himself for 5 turns. So overall, everything in that he does is good. I mean, hurting himself's pretty, it kind of sucks, but he can just heal himself all the way back up anyway with another, like your healer or something like that. So won't be too worried there. He has the Bare Knuckle Extreme ability, which is just going to be that passive where it increases his attack when he's unarmed, but we don't worry about that anymore. That was never really that good in the first place. It definitely isn't good now, and we can buff that with our support units anyway. Increases attack 30%, increases modifier to kick by 1.5. So if you're looking, he actually has a lot of modifiers up on his normal abilities, which is pretty cool. It looks like he has resist to poison, paralyze, and disease. So he's only covering one so far of the big ones, confuse, paralyze, and petrify. So he only has paralyze here. Poison and disease, we're not too worried about when it comes to units, in my opinion. They're easily taken off, and they don't really disable the unit. They just make it a little bit worse, right? You take a little bit of HP damage, disease a little bit worse off with stats, but they don't disable. So I would love to have seen Walnut Lover. Oh my gosh, the name of the passive. I would have loved to have seen him get, you know, at least one more of the Confusion or Petrify that disable the unit, don't allow them to actually do what they want to do. We have some MP, some stat buffs, increase HP, increase 50% when equipped with a fist, so that shows Fist Mastery. We want to have a fist on him to get the most out of his passives. We do have increased equipment attack 100% when single wielding any weapon, which is true double hand. So it's 100% right here with a passive at 6-star. Chance to counter physical attacks 35% with can't do me in. So if you look down, it can only happen one turn. It's going to do physical damage, physical damage, physical damage. So he's going to hit. He's like, get out of here, dude. You can't hurt me or whatever. Like, I'm stronger than you. And then he's going to get triple blitz off of that. So that's the biggest thing of this. It does a little bit of damage, but mostly you're looking for the triple blitz ability, which allows him to triple cast, do more damage. Moving on down, if we have his TMR equipped, which you are, because, you know, he's going to be using a fist weapon and you want these passives, we get some attack and spirit passives up. Another increase of 100% with any weapon. So another true double hand. So he's already up to 200% innately, as long as you have his TMR equipped, which is going to be great. And Phantom Rush is going to get a 1.5 times increase. If we look up here again, Phantom Rush is going to be his big damage dealing ability, in my opinion, the one you're going to be chaining with everybody with, besides his LB. But yeah, the chaining one that leads up to the LB, and it puts that up. So you definitely want to have his TMR on. If we keep going down, we just get some more increased counter chance by 100%. That's pretty cool. We get some more of his abilities getting some modifiers up. So don't just take his modifiers for what they show on the wiki under the ability. He has so many different ways to buff up those, or through passives or through active abilities, that they're going to be doing a little bit more damage. My puppy's outside. It's raining. He's not liking that. He wants to talk to me. But hey, we're working. We got to get through this. We can also see that he upgrades LB for 2 turns when HP drops below 20%. Now, this is very important. Again, playing into the lore of Final Fantasy VI, we have to go up once we use this ability right here, which puts us below the 20% threshold, 81%. Perfect. We also 36 LB crystals. So it plays into this. It upgrades his LB. If we look to his LB, it is 36. So you cast that, then you can cast his LB. The problem is the 10-turn cooldown. So you're only going to get that upgraded LB, you know, unless you hurt him somehow else or can control it to be only 20%, you know, once every 10 turns. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Increased defense up. He gets an attack buff, more MP recovery, which I love. MP recovery on use is amazing, and some more stat boost up. We've talked about these passives. Let's talk about his LB. So first off, we can see here that he has a pretty good LB, 52 hit chain. He goes nuts. It is not the suplexing of the train that it should have been, or at least it should have finished the last piece of the train. Should have been the chain of his LB should have been the train, but it's still doing a lot of damage. And if you look, it enables triple cast, triple blitz, which is his triple cast for 3 turns, and it does pretty good damage. Now, if you get to use the upgraded form, which meaning he goes below the threshold of the 20%. Let's see where that was again. Right here. For 2 turns, so if you go down 20%, it upgrades it for 2 turns, you're going to be able to do massive amounts of damage. It's absolutely ridiculous. When you max it out, it's going to go all the way up to my puppy's getting real mad, 70 times multiplier if you count in the 50% defense there, and enables triple cast for 5 turns. He does ridiculous damage, and he gets the triple cast. He's going to go nuts in there, pounding people down with his fist. So what do I think of Sabin overall? I think he's a very, very good damage dealer. He's not going to be top tier. He's not going to be beating Xeno. He's not going to be beating Esther, Axstar. He's going to be up there, though. So if you really want to use Sabin, you have the ability to go in there and do that. On top of the fact that if you need somebody that can deal damage and, you know, covers these elements here in water or fire, you know, water element is one that's been kind of thrown to the side when it comes to chainers recently. Rip in peace, Titus. But he has the ability to do that. So if you're looking for somebody you want to have high explosive chaining, high explosive damage on the LB, which is freaking ridiculous. It is ridiculous. 70 times multiplier on a 52 hit. You can finish that off with anybody in the game. You can fit anything in there. It's going to be amazing. As long as you have another Sabin to chain with, they'll be. Overall, I think he's a good unit for that. Water Chainer, have that in your back pocket. If you just want to use him because you love Sabin, you love Final Fantasy VI, get in there. He is going to be producing the damage to take down some of these trials. He's not a bad unit at all, but with a little caveat that if you already have these damage dealing units, you can feel okay with skipping him. And now moving on to his brother, King Edgar of Figaro. He's going to be a damage healer, but also a high-tier breaker. So if you're still looking for a breaker, look into Edgar, King Edgar. He could be an option for you. Looking at the TMR, Master of Machinery, which I think is much better than Sabin's TMR, much more useful to a broader audience. Increase MP 20% and attack 40%, just flat out. That's amazing right there. Increase physical damage against mechanical monsters 50%. It's just a physical damage dealing machine killer awesomeness, okay? I actually want this to be able to use in my repertoire, so I really would like to just get him just even for that TMR, but we have so many machine killers in Global, you kind of, it's up to you if you really want to go ham for it. Moving on down, Coin of Fate Edgar, again, I think is better than his brother's STMR, so while I think that Sabin is the better unit, in a way, I think King Edgar of Figaro has him covered in the TMR and STMR. That's the way he can get over his brother. Attack 50 on an accessory. Really high attack stat when it comes to wanting the true double hand or true dual wield stats. Increases resist to all elements, which is absolutely insane for an accessory to have the attack on top of that. And we're not done yet. We have Royal Determination. Increases your LB fill gauge by 50%. This is a phenomenal STMR. Really, really high tier. Really, really good forever. If you end up getting it. Again, I know I keep reiterating this in videos, but I want to make sure it's clear. Monsters will begin to imperil your status elements. Confuse, petrify, all of that stuff. And you need to have something equipped and then some other way to buff it up. Equip and then buff it up in another aspect. So you need to make sure you have your hands on this stuff. It is very, very important. And to not take away from maybe your attack or, a ribbon really just all it does is do the status elements, where this thing does a lot of stuff. So that's what makes it so good. Moving on down, we're going to talk about what, Edgar's role is. Edgar does have some Stardust Ray chaining. He has Oriole Ray chaining, but mostly, while being a damage healer, he is mostly, in my opinion, a support breaking unit. You can look into his kit here. He has some breaks early on. He has some ability to give some MP for everybody. Not the highest in the world, but he still can. Looking at this ability, he does have the option to dual cast, which is great. You can see that he has decrease for 1 turn, but for 70%, even at 6-star, which is amazing, but it happens the next turn. You can see it auto cast, and it only lasts for 1 turn, so kind of rough there. He does cover earth and water elemental resistances, so imperils. So if you're going to be using water or earth to damage dealing and you need an outside imperiler, he's got you covered to help you out with that. Because sometimes maybe you get into a fight and you really want to be using water elements and you throw your water weapon onto your Xeno or somebody like that, but they don't have imperils on their own to help you with the fight. This is where a water or earth elemental breaker imperiler can really come in and help you. So that's going to be where Edgar is going to shine a little bit as compared to the other ones, but there are other reasons. He hates machines, just like his TMR says, so he's going to be able to do a little bit of damage to the machines as well. Moving on down to his cooldown abilities, it's available on turn 1, 10-turn cooldown, decrease attack, defense, magic, and spirit by 74%, for 3 turns to 1 enemy. So this is going to be the 74% that everybody normally has as a cooldown ability, but a 10-turn cooldown is kind of rough when it only breaks them for 3 turns, right? But we're going to get into why he can kind of fight that off anyway. Decrease water and earth resist by 100% for 3 turns to 1 enemy, so he has even more packed into that break. And increase LB fill rate 300% for 3 turns to himself, so he's going to be able to get that LB up, and that's going to be very important moving forward. He does have, on turn 4, he has the A-Ray chaining ability. It's actually a lot of damage if you look at this, and he actually hurts himself, puts him down to the 19%, which is important, just like we talked about his brother Sabin. So he does a, okay amount of damage, but I don't think he's really here to be doing the damage. He's here to be your support unit, breaker, imperiler. He also has another ability, Awkward Inventor, available turn 1, 20-turn cooldown. This better break the game. All right, enable skills for 6 turns. So we have some abilities we're going to look at here in a minute that he gets for 6 turns. Increase physical damage 50% for 5 turns to all allies. So he really hates machines, and he makes everybody in your team hate machines as well. That's actually really strong. I really like that being in his kit. And he puts his LB fill rate for everybody up by 200%. Okay, I can see why this ability is good. I mean, even just for these two, it's awesome. 20-turn cooldown is really hurtful. That's actually insane. So you're only going to probably cast this once a fight, maybe twice, if you really look into it that much. Looking down at his passes, we'll look at those abilities as we go down. Recover MP 5% a turn. He has Charm Resist, which is great. Always adding that in. Charm and Stop are going to be ugly later on, so you're going to want to have some kind of either buff to be resist to those, someone who is resist to those that can cleanse it, or, you know, some way to give everybody resist to that. Increase Blind, Confuse, and Petrify. Why does he have better status element resist than Sabin? All right, so he has Confuse and Petrify. Again, he's missing the Paralyze, but that's all right. And he also has Charm. He's just better off there when it comes to that. If we look, increase attack 30%, enable dual wielding of one-handed weapons, increase equipment attack by 30% when dual wielding. So it looks like he's going to be a true dual wielding unit. We're going to have to look through his passives here, but I think more or less he's just going to be a support unit. Even though he could be a true dual wielder, he has the option to dual wield. He has 30% attack when dual wielding, buffed everything, true dual wield. I don't think it's going to be enough to make him some kind of strong, does astronomical amounts of damage. But he could cover some elements you may need to lock up on some fights, or, put certain things in his hand. This allows him to maybe be a little bit more tanky, or, carry some special weapon passives from the item world that he may need, because he has it innately in his kit. Moving on down, we do have increased physical damage against monsters 100%. Like I said, he hates it. But it also looks like he has 50% when single wielding any weapon. So it looks like they kind of halved him here. You could do true dual wield, or you could do, I guess, true double hand. I would definitely choose the true dual wield route, or just dual wield in general, again, to get those passives added onto him. More MP, more spirit, defense, HP, anything like that. I'm not really using him as my damage dealer. If you have his TMR equipped, which you should, it's amazing. You probably have it on somebody else, but increased physical damage against monsters 100%. Like, if you have his TMR on, and then both of his, he has 250%, he just hates machines, dude. He hates it. And then he can buff up 50% to everybody else. Increase LB fill rate 50%, and you get LB 2 per turn if you have his TMR on. Again, I really think you're putting it on someone else. You can actually skip out on this. I really like this end part here, because you do want to be casting as LB, so... but if you're not fighting a machine, you could definitely throw it on him, and you have other machine killers on your main damage dealer, you can throw it on him, because that's kind of important, because his LB is really, really strong. He has some increased modifiers here, upgrades LB for 2 turns when HP drops below 20%, so that's going to be similar to what happened with Sabin. We look down, he has LB up 1 per turn in his kit, so it's all about getting that LB up. Looking at the abilities that he unlocks when he uses this 20-turn cooldown ability, which is ridiculous. He can cast an ability that decreases attack and magic 70% for 2 turns to all enemies. He has an ability where he can decrease defense and spirit by 70% 2 turns to all enemies. So he can cast both of these, and you can see that it's lit up due to the dual cast. So he's going to be able to dual cast that. But if you look, it is available for 6 turns, but then after that, you're not going to be able to use them anymore. So remember that. It's a 20-turn cooldown. It unlocks them for 6 turns, but you're not going to be able to use them after that. We do have some Fatal Barrage chaining, which is very, very short family. Not very many people can use the Fatal Barrage chaining family. It's not very prevalent in the game, but we do have now he can put down Light Resist if you would need to. It's pretty much all I would really see this ability being used for. Moving on down, he does have an ability here, which is actually pretty cool. Water, Earth, and Light Resist going down by 100%. So I really just see you using this if you're going to use anything when it comes to imperiling. And then finally, he does get an awesome MP recovery, 70 to all, and increase LB gauge 6 to caster, allowing him to get his LB faster and give some MP to people. Now, it's not the most MP in the world. Everybody's not going to lose their mind over it, but it is a little bit to have your breaker be doing when they're not breaking. So the biggest problem with Edgar you can see here is that his breaks don't really last that long. You got 2 there, you got 2 turns there, you got 3 turns there, it's a 10-turn cooldown, and then you got 4 turns here, but it's, 60% on defense, and then you got this one, the last 1 turn, down here you have 50%, so these aren't the greatest, right? Well, what really breaks him and makes him shine is going to be his LB. So if we look down here at his 7-star max before we use the upgrade, which only happens if he drops below, 20%, is that he's going to do some chaining abilities, but then he has like a fall off break that happens, okay, as long as it's not upgraded. So it's going to decrease attack, defense, magic, and spirit by 84% for 1 turn, so a big break there, and then it's going to go back to the 74% for 2 turns after that, and then for 3 turns after that, it's 64. Autocast next turn increases his LB gauge by 8, so, and it's only a 32 cast LB, so he's always going to be getting really close to using that LB, and when he does, he can get up to an 84%, and it does decay a little bit, but it's still extremely powerful for those first 3 turns, and then 64% is okay. You're going to be able to live through that. But before that, it's really high, and I do believe he's just going to get his LB back up anyway in those 3 turns for you to be able to cast it again. Now, if you end up, this is where he gets kind of big damage, and then great break here. If you do end up having his upgraded version, which will do better damage if you get below 20%, it's going to do a little bit more damage, and it's going to apply that 84%, debuff for 2 turns to all enemies instead of the 1 turn. So it's going to last a little bit longer for you there. And then hopefully you get up his LB and you can cast the normal one later on. So overall, he's a little bit more complicated than your normal breaker that we have in the meta. You know, Orin, 2B, Lauren, all of them. He can do a little bit more breaking. He can do some damage. He can do some imperiling. So he has a lot, and MP recovery. He has a lot of support to him. And he can chain up with some families. And he's kind of interesting to use. He has great TMRs and STMRs, but if you already have one of those great breakers, I think you're really easily skipping King Edgar. If you love Edgar, he's going to be good for your breaker. He's going to be able to go in that spot and support Imperialer. But other than that, you know, pretty skippable. So guys, that is the end of my review of this Figaro Bros Final Fantasy VI banner. Again, great units. They're not bad by any means. If you end up getting them, you need a breaker, you need a physical damage dealer, or you just want somebody that messes around with earth and water a little bit more to have in your back pocket when you may need that. These guys are going to be phenomenal for you. But if you already have some of these breakers, high-end breakers, if you already have some really great physical damage dealers, and you don't really care for Final Fantasy VI too much, you can just use a couple of tickets for King Mog and not worry about missing them and possibly getting them in an EX or a 10+1 summon. No worries there. They're really great, but definitely skippable for you guys who have a lot of stuff out there. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you think who wins the brother duel, Edgar or Sabin? Which one? I keep saying Sabin, Sabine. One of those is right. I'll learn how to speak one day, and then subscribe for future content. We'll catch you guys in the next video.